Hello and welcome to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. Today we are in the Walnut Hills neighborhood in Cincinnati in the Gilbert-Sinton Historic District at Morris Manor, which at one time was the Madame Friedan's Eden Park School for Young Ladies. Today I'm with Peg Wine and I'm pleased to be able to speak with you.
Good to be here, thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. Let's talk about this building. What year did this come?
It dates back to 1873.
Oh my goodness.
And was built by a man named Dickens, who was a developer and went to Yale University with William Howard Taft.
Oh.
That's all we know about him, but he was a wealthy developer, as was Taft at the time. And he built this as a school, and the buildings next door, down the street, the row houses have very similar architecture, were built for the teachers. And it was a very elegant French school. And the madam's husband was the French consul to the United States. And what he was doing in Cincinnati, who knows? I mean, I didn't know we had an office like that ever, but we did at the time because we were quite a big and thriving city with a lot of international contact. And that's who put it together.
So this is the French side coming through. And so this was an all-girls school?
All-girls school. A very upper crust, elegant all-girls school where you were only allowed to speak French.
Oh.
And I think it was in business for maybe 30 years. You know, they moved out of this in the early part of the 20th century for reasons that are not entirely clear.
Gotcha. And it's been housing since?
Yes. I think it was vacant for a while, and then it was converted. I know that the renovation that was done, I think, was 1970. And then we bought it about 10 or 15 years ago and renovated again, you know.
What were the renovations that were needed to happen?
Well, the first one was turning it into apartments. And the developer did a very good job. As a matter of fact, the developer was Michael Ainsley, who subsequently became head of the National Trust in Washington, D.C. He was here running a company, but he left. He renovated 3 or 4 buildings, by the way, all of which I bought accidentally. It just I wasn't
a big fan of
Ainsley.
Ainsley.
It's just that I liked his taste, apparently. And so he came back not long ago because he's a friend of ours, and we took him through the building, which was fun. He did a very good job, and so we just updated it, taking out carpets, which were popular, and putting hardwood back. There was no original hardwood because it was a classroom setting rather than an apartment. So. But they're done quite nicely. And there are 12 units in the building, and we can't go in because it's 100% occupied.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
And being right across from the park, what a lovely place to be located.
And the woman who built this and her husband apparently were a very important part of the cultural life of the city. And their daughter Eileen, was a musician, and we're right down the street from Baldwin Piano, and then up the hill from the Symphony, the music hall. So it was a musical and cultural mecca, you know, and Walnut Hills was one of the early neighborhoods that attracted from the city very wealthy people.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is a historic neighborhood, so that makes this
It's historic in the sense it's old. It's not a designated historic area, I don't believe, but this building was put on the National Trust before I bought it. And so it's designated as on an important building.
Yeah.
Primarily, I think, because of the architecture, and secondarily because of its personal history.
Well, tell me a little bit about the architecture of the building.
A little bit. It's French Empire style, and there's a wonderful detailing. Slate roofs, and the slate was for some reason painted from the onset, and but it has, you know, fake balconies and lots of interest. I mean, the detail on this building is phenomenal. And but I can't describe it much more than that because I'm more of an historian than I am an architect.
Well,
but it's a beautiful building.
It certainly is. It looks like there's limestone on there, and what is it like to own a building like this? Do you feel the sense of history?
Yes, it's humbling. You don't want to screw it up. You want to preserve it, and so I've done a lot of buildings like this, and it's really fun to bring them back and bring them up to current standards in terms of the livability, you know, and say, we're going to pass this on now to the next generation, and hopefully they'll keep it, because you can't build a building like that. I don't know how many millions of dollars it would take to build that.
No.
But to build a building all stone like that with those windows and that detailing.
Especially as apartments.
Oh,
That
it would never
would never
happen.
make
It'd
sense.
be, $5-10 million. I don't even know the figure,
Yeah.
but it would be really high.
And what was this neighborhood like? Was this park always here?
Yes, the park's been here from the 19th century. And it was, Longworth donated. It was vineyards originally.
Oh.
But Longworth, who was Speaker of the House and a very wealthy person from this part of the country, gave it to the city.
And the conservatory and everything else that's a part of the
Conservatory,
park.
the art museum, the playhouse, they're all part of Eden Park.
Oh, wow.
And actually, just on a personal level, the old tennis courts were right up there, and that's where my parents met.
Oh.
So that's kind of nice,
Oh, definite connection to Morris
lots of
Manor.
connections, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So it was a school, and then it became an apartment building. And where do you see the future of this? Do you think?
Oh, I think it'll stay as an apartment building.
Yeah.
It could be converted to condos, but it works wonderfully as an apartment building.
Do you know why it stands out from the rest? I'm looking around at some of the other buildings. It's the only one with limestone. Was it just because it was the school?
Probably. It was built that way, but the building that was its companion is a pretty nice building too, with a lot of details. Not as nice as this, but I think it was built as an outstanding, it was to be a cultural landmark because of the school and because of the nature of the people who built it.
Interesting.
And so they built it above and beyond. But Walnut Hills was a wealthy neighborhood in the late 1870s.
Okay. Okay.
Because the downtown was beginning to get filled with too much industry, and it was environmentally less attractive. And so people started moving out of the city and moved to, I think, Avondale, North Avondale, and Walnut Hills were the first neighborhoods where people moved.
Gotcha. When you're inside the building, it was a school. Do you still have the sense of where different rooms would have been?
No, you don't anymore. It's sometimes a converted school you can tell, but this one was completely gutted and done over again. So you have no sense of it being a school.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. That we see from the outside, it probably doesn't look much different.
No, and I wish I had pictures, but I don't, of what the school children looked like or whatever, but I've never been able to turn those up.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's always fun to do.
So from your knowledge, did the students live in this building?
I don't think they did. I think the teachers lived next door, but the students came here as day students, to the best of my knowledge. And the streetcar was right down the hill.
Oh, there was a streetcar.
Mm-hmm. It came from downtown Cincinnati up Gilbert, which is a very steep hill. And the reason we had the streetcars was because of the hills. So they were too steep to walk a lot of the time. So they put in the streetcar. It went all through the center of Walnut Hills. And I don't know how far beyond that, but I'm pretty sure it went to Hyde Park. And so my guess is the kids came here on the streetcar.
Wow. And what happened with the streetcars?
Well, sadly, we took it out in the late 40s or 50s, I think. And funnily, San Francisco is known for its cable cars. And where do you think those cable cars came from? Cincinnati sold a lot of them to San Francisco.
Really?
And they're still in use. I mean, do you believe that? What we could have had we kept them.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. The same hills,
yep.
Working the same way, but
yeah, exactly.
They took them out and gave them.
We're as a society, we worship the automobile, which is such a shame, because the streetcars are more interesting and people walking and biking are more interesting, but we went through a period from the 50s on until recently, actually, where that was considered the best form of transportation.
Right, certainly more parking lots without a streetcar.
Exactly. But now a lot of the neighborhoods coming back are coming back because they're pedestrian friendly, and so we're sort of reverting to that. Yeah. And if you look around Cincinnati, in a lot of different places there's steps, and they're still there, and the steps are what allowed people to go from the base to the top of the hills. And so we can return to that. and we would have a fitter population.
I'm sure of that.
That's for sure. When you go everywhere in your car, it's not the same thing.
Tell me, has this neighborhood changed since you had purchased the building?
No. Well, yes. I mean, it's changed in the sense of all the urban neighborhoods in Cincinnati are improving. And I think the return to the urban core is a national, if not international, phenomena. So we're seeing that all over the world. And you know, the period of time where we built bigger and bigger houses and moved farther and farther from the cities into the suburbs, you know, frankly, that's a little bit boring, you know, and because all your culture and arts and the excitements is usually in the urban core, and that's coming back. So I have seen improvement in the area, but not as dramatic as, for example, in Over the Rhine, which is right in the city,
Right.
where there was really high crime rates, vacant buildings. This building was vacant for about 30 years.
Oh, wow.
But until it was done in the 70s, maybe longer than 30 years, I'm not sure. But it's not like Over the Rhine,
Yeah.
but it's definitely getting better.
And has the neighborhood stayed the same in this specific area?
Yeah, pretty much. If you look around at the houses and go a few streets in either direction, a lot of it is the same. There are streets that have new row houses and things like that, but a lot of it has been preserved, and which is really nice.
Thanks to builders like yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Those of us who are nuts about history and old architecture.
To continue the legacy so that
Yeah.
we can still see something
Exactly.
like this and enjoy
And
its presence.
these buildings will be here. They're not going anywhere. I mean, look at that. You could have an
Yeah, you didn't have to
earthquake
do much to the exterior,
No.
to the structure itself.
here. Not to the structure itself at all. When they built these buildings, they built them in such a way as you're never going to have to do much. The only thing we really had to do, which was a very extensive project, was paint, you know, the windows and that, whatever. But
And you
because
said
there's a
there-
lot of detailing there.
Yes, there is.
And
You
have
said
to go
there's
up pretty
7
high.
different colors on this,
7 different colors, yeah.
from the trim to
Yeah.
the steps, the railings.
I have a wonderful designer, Aubrey Welsh, and she came originally with 11 colors. And we said, Aubrey,
We don't need the whole spectrum.
no, but anyway, but we did the 7, and it really shows off the details in a very unique way.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
we value these buildings, we really do.
Is there anything interesting inside the building?
No, the inside is pretty new, so no, there isn't anything particular, other than the fact the ceilings are very tall.
Okay.
And they're spacious apartments. So they're really lovely apartments, but you don't have the old historic because that was gone.
Right.
The school.
Including the windows? Were the windows?
No, the windows I think are original. I mean,
Oh,
well, I don't know. I think they were replaced, I'm sorry, in the 70s.
Okay.
Or when that building was done.
But even though, that's quite some time now.
Yeah, right. But no, there's a lot of the buildings, you do have a lot preserved, like the floors and the fireplaces and whatever, but not here. Or
Right.
the fixtures. But those were all gone.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Ms. Wyant.
Thank you for coming.
So we were in Madam Frieden's Eden Park School, Mount Morris, on Morris Street in the Walnut Hills neighborhood, right across from Eden Park in Cincinnati, Ohio. My name's Chrissy Morgan. This is History in Your Own Backyard. Remember, travel slowly and stop often.